Welcome to the Healing Place podcast, a space filled with inspirational stories of hope, along with practical advice for your healing journey. Your host is Terry Wellbrock, trauma warrior, writer, speaker, blogger, therapy dog handler, and founder of the Sammy's Bundles of Hope project. As a survivor and a thriver, Terry's mission is to shine the light of hope into the world by interviewing insightful guests from across the globe. Please stay tuned at the end of today's interview as we honor our sponsors. The Healing Place podcast is a fiscally sponsored project of Fractured Atlas. Now, here's your host and trauma warrior, Terry Wellbrock.
Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Terry Wellbrock, and I'm excited to have with me today Terry Maluk, and she is stress management coach, author of multiple best-selling books, an EFT practitioner, and I can't speak all of a sudden. So welcome, Terry.
Thank you so much, Terry. It's good to be here.
Yes, good to have you. John D. Whitus had introduced us, and I'm very happy to. That she did so. So tell us a little about who you are and what it is that you do.
I am officially retired, right? But as I retired, I realized that I needed more to keep going. While I was still working, like so many people around me, for multiple decades, I was in a stressful job, pretty high stress toward the end. And what happened was I was experiencing this ever-increasing number of physical discomforts and pains. And what I didn't know at the time was that they all result from chronic stress. Mm-hmm. So what took me to the doctor was heart pain, chest pain. And she, bless her heart, told me, you need to change something about your life, girl, or you're not going to have one. So I went to yoga teacher training. I started going to yoga, and it spoke to me so much that I went to yoga teacher training. Heard about this EFT tapping thing, and at first I was just like, yeah, whatever. This is just way too woo-woo for me, because I was raised in the sciences. I was a hard science background, so it's like, show me how it works. After a while, I realized there's a ton of science behind EFT tapping. And so that brought me around. I learned some breathing techniques. I learned some meditation techniques. And all of these became so useful to me in different combinations. You know, some things work in different situations and other things don't. They're not appropriate. And one size doesn't fit all. We're all wonderfully unique individuals, and some things work great and some things don't. So you don't put those in your toolbox, or maybe you put them in the back and pull them out later after you've had some experience. Yeah. So realizing, you go ahead, sorry.
I just was going to say, as I talk about on the podcast a lot, I've created this toolbox, and I say to people that just to have and learn these things, that I don't utilize all of it every day, that there's certain things that I may try and I'm like, that's not working today. And so I'll pull something else out and try Ho'oponopono Hawaiian healing, or do some tapping work, and it's great to have this toolbox filled with stuff. But I like the idea you said of just maybe putting that in the back as a alternative if something else isn't, your normal go-to isn't quite working for the day.
That's exactly right. And I find also that we grow and change daily. You know, before and after you say you're a Ho'oponopono, you're a different person. And if you say that for a month running, and you look at that other tool in the back there, it may have a whole different meaning to you in a month than it does today. So don't give up on it, but, maybe look at it a little bit later.
Right.
Yeah. So what happened as I was becoming more and more, so like little headaches became chronic migraines. Low back pain became debilitating. I couldn't do things that I love to do. But with the use of these tools, eventually things came back. I mean, I literally, Terry, I got my life back. because of these woo-woo tools,
Yes.
And so, yeah, I'm sold. And so what I decided was I'm not holding this all to myself. I want to share this information. And with the world, of course, right? I want everyone
Right.
to know about it.
Yes.
Who I have, it's come to me, they're very near and dear to my heart for a lot of reasons, are nurses and healthcare workers. And so, holy cow, especially right now, they have such stressful positions all day, every day, and they're put into working around the clock. So their body clocks and their sleep suffers
Yeah.
because of that. Not to mention just the day to day and what they're going through now. And of course, nurses, they're nurturers. They take care of everyone except themselves.
Right.
And to get them to stop and practice self-care, that's a job. It really is. And they know it, but they still don't do it.
Right.
So what
Right.
I try to do is offer tiny tools. Take one breath. Take one breath.
Yes.
Look around and find one thing that is going well that you can be thankful for, and either say out loud in your out loud voice or to yourself, thank you, and just keep on going. But those little things like that, you can squeeze into your day without having to set aside 15 or 20 minutes for meditation. Not that you shouldn't do that. Honestly, I would love to see everybody find 5 minutes for a breathing practice, 20 minutes for a meditation practice, 10, 20 minutes for an EFT practice. Rotate them around or include them all. But yeah, so.
Yeah. I saw a Facebook post that said, today I will do one push-up. Today I will meditate for 1 minute. Today I will take a 1 minute walk. And it was just encouraging that creation of habitual patterns. And if you start to create these habits, but don't look at it as, how am I supposed to get in a 30-minute workout and a 30-minute meditation and 30 minutes of yoga? But look at it as a slow transition, and then finding those things that work for you, like you said. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. So think about, you could take 5 minutes off your social media time.
Yes.
And use a self-care technique. Get away from what spins you up and find something that calms you down. Because that chronic stress, that compromises our immune system. And right now, of all times, we need that strong.
Right.
So let that stress go, if only for a minute. Just kind of center yourself, calm. Without the stress, your thinking cap gets much better. When you're stressed, the signals to your brain go, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, we're going to die. We got to run. We got to hide. We got to freeze. Oh my goodness, something's going to happen. So where's your thinking brain during all that?
Right.
It's gone out of the building.
Off.
It's just, yeah, exactly. So if you're in a high pressure situation like healthcare, holy cow, you need that thinking cap to be on. So a little moment for stress relief is a good thing. Yeah.
I have some friends who say to me, Terry, how do you get so much done? You're always doing all this stuff like house projects and I said, I don't watch TV. It gives me that opportunity for, well, one, I don't want to watch the news. I know it triggers me because of my trauma history, and but I just don't, because I find that reading, or I find that coloring in my Zen coloring book, those things that you can make time if you do just, I'm not saying people don't have to watch TV or have their Netflix binges or any of that, but you can create time for self-care.
You can, yeah. And that's a good exercise, actually, is sitting and looking through your average day and where can I fit this in?
Yeah.
Or instead of watching the TV, turn and open the curtains and look out the window, and maybe there's a tree out there, maybe there are birds. Watch that. I mean, that's kitty TV, we call it, but it's TV for me too.
I love it, and I do it. I stop and peer out my window. I have a bird feeder, and I love watching the squirrels and the birds, and yeah,
exactly. We're sheltering right now in place in an RV in a campground, but it's a very spread out campground, and we have like the best spot. I don't know. Well, thank you. I'm just so thankful we got this
Yes.
spot. But I'm able, sometimes wild turkeys walk through, sometimes deer, sometimes when we've got a nesting pair of geese on a pond not far away.
Oh,
It's having that nature around really soothes my soul. I'll take the weather is such that now I can take my laptop out to the picnic table and type out there, and yeah, it's
yeah.
great.
Which reminds me, so you've just finished a manuscript on a book, and you're author of several other books. Can you talk a little bit about some of the books that you've written?
Sure. The first book I wrote was released in November 2018. It's called RX for RNs, and it's just about getting rid of the overwhelm and trying to cut burn off out away before it happens, so these simple breathing techniques, meditation techniques, EFT tapping, learning to set boundaries. Holy cow, nurses, right? It's so hard for them to say no when somebody says, my kid's sick, can you take my shift? That's hard to say, I can't do it. Do it when you can, but take care of you too. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So yeah, RX for RNs was my first book. That's been pretty popular. In fact, at least, well, I won't say how many, but several nursing school curricula have picked it up
Yay!
to offer, right? How cool
That is so cool.
to teach student nurses that self-care is important. And there are specifically holistic nursing programs out there that are especially good about emphasizing that self-care aspect of nursing.
Yeah.
From there, I took and started and am just finishing up a series called The Art of Managing Stress. And the first book is called Take One Breath. That's the name of it. So it's a really simple, these are designed to be pretty short reads so that you can take them. They're step by step. Here's 5 breathing techniques that work for most people. Choose one you like, practice it often. And it literally comes down to paying attention to taking one breath.
Yeah.
The second one is called In This Moment. And it's about bringing yourself into this moment through meditation, and offers different techniques for meditating for beginners and those who want to kind of revisit their practice, beginner's mind type of thing. The last in the series is I just sent the manuscript off to the subject matter experts yesterday, and I'm real excited about that. It's called Emotional Freedom Techniques, EFT Tapping. So the art of managing stress through EFT tapping. I had started a manuscript on interviewing nurses based on interviews of nurses in all 50 states. This was in January that I began. And then came COVID-19, and that's kind of like, oh, nobody has time for anything right now.
Right.
So it'll be interesting. I have 15 or 20 interviews done before COVID came, and it will be really interesting. I may see if I can go back and re-interview post.
Oh, yeah.
And then because all the other interviews are going to be post. So I'm going to kick that around for a while and see what to do with that, or go forward with what I have.
You could almost go with what you have and then even specify post COVID-19, and that would be a really fascinating comparison. I'm a research geek, by nature, and so I love those kinds of like just the comparisons of how it would be different.
Right. Pre and post. Yep. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I love it, and I look forward to reading that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So any myths or facts that you would like to clarify for listeners in regards to maybe holistic healing or whatever subject?
Right. I find that just like I first reacted to EFT tapping, most people, when they see it done, because it involves this tapping on points on your face, and exactly, right? People go, what the heck?
Right.
So it's not woo-woo. And it took a lot for me to come to that point. But like you said, a research geek, when I first read about it, it's like I saw all these different people who do EFT. It's like, okay, let's take it back to the very beginning. I researched until I found the developer, Gary Craig, and how he did what he did and the history of EFT tapping. And then followed forward all the research that is being done. The science is in. Holy cow, there's just no disputing the fact that it does work. There are clinical random trials, there are case studies, there are now meta-analyses, which is grouping together other studies to give it even more statistical impact and meaning. It's amazing. Recently, it was just early this year, I believe, Dr. Peta Stapleton, she's at Bond University in Queensland, Australia. She is like the Energizer Bunny of EFT tapping research. She is amazing. She replicated a 2012 study that was done by Dr. Dawson Church and others on the levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So salivary levels of cortisol pre and post 1 hour of tapping. Dr. Church found that it reduced cortisol levels over 24% pre and post 1 hour of EFT tapping. Almost a quarter of the cortisol levels dropped. That's amazing. So Dr. Stapleton replicated that study with groups just this year, late last year, early this year. The publication is just coming out with 1 hour of group tapping. Cortisol levels dropped 43%.
I just heard that yesterday from one of my interviews, brought up that same statistic, and that is just, amazing. 43%.
It is amazing. Yeah, and when compared to traditional standard talk therapy, and of course the placebos, it's all statistically significantly different.
Yeah.
It's not that those other things don't help, but EFT helps, and it's lasting, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
What you can do in 1 hour might take a few sessions of talk therapy. But combined, holy cow, because that's what EFT tapping is. You're stimulating the acupoints, the endpoints of energy lines that run through your system that have been used for thousands of years in acupuncture. Luckily, there's no needles in EFT tapping, which is we're just gently stimulating those acupoints while talking about what's bothering us. So we're sending that calming signal to the amygdala in the brain saying, yeah, turn off the alarm. Things really are okay. Even though I'm saying this thing that happened,
yes,
I'm okay. Right here, right now, I'm okay. Yeah. So
I love the process, and I utilize tapping. I remember the first time I did it, I was in the midst of severe panic attacks, in the middle of my EMDR healing journey, and had met a practitioner, an EFT practitioner. And interesting enough, she lived in Kentucky and I live in Ohio. One of my big fears and phobias was bridges. And I said, oh, I can't get to you because she came to my house, which was amazing. And did 2 sessions with me. Actually, in the second session, she actually said, since driving phobias and bridges are a part of this, let's get in your car and go. And then we stopped in front of a bridge and pulled over into a parking lot, but near one, and did the whole, and it was just amazing, but yeah, so incredibly powerful.
Right. And identified, I'm imagining she had you stop and then think about what you were feeling and in your body and emotions and sensations.
Yes,
and
exactly.
And you just take it a little bit at a time. Yeah. There's one thing that I've encountered frequently. I fly a lot, used to fly a lot, is people are scared of flying. And you can use EFT to help that. And one of the things that I found, which I'm not even sure if you're noticing I'm doing right now, my hands are in front of me, and it's really subtle, but I teach them to hold right at the base of the nail where it curves around with the
Yeah.
other hand. Just hold and gentle pressure, and just nobody notices what you're doing.
Right.
Gentle pressure, take a breath, move to the next one. Do all the fingers slowly and take a breath, and you can be thinking about what's bothering you. You don't have to vocalize anything like typically in EFT tapping where we're talking about what's bothering us.
Right.
But this little technique, I call it a stealth technique. It's just holding, and these same energy lines run down the sides of all of our fingers.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about which side they run down because we're holding both sides.
Yeah.
And so the people on the plane, you can literally see their jaw drop sometimes. This is like, how does that work? And so then, of course, I get to talk more about it, which is great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's if nothing else, if you don't want to walk around doing this and you're not at home and something comes up or you're sitting in a meeting, you can very easily practice EFT by just doing things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I've not come across that one before. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. I've got 2 images in my books of where to hold this, and it's my husband's hand on there, and everybody gives him compliments on how handsome his hands are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. I love it. Well, yeah. And again, I think, as you talked about people not wanting to do this, I hope we get to a world where we can see people doing that and we can be like, oh,
me
you're
too,
doing
Terry.
tapping,
Exactly. I do it in the car. I'm not scared. I do it in the car. And with the tapping solution, the Ortner family, they have that annual summit, and it's when they have like 600,000 people watching it every year. They have literally brought tapping to millions of people. And so I'm really hoping that as time goes on, a lot more people will not just say tapping or, yeah, I've heard of that, but I don't know anything about it. That you'll see people doing this, and they're actually starting to see people like athletes, professional athletes.
That's
tapping.
awesome.
Yeah. Somebody told me there was a Netflix series, and I can't remember the name of it. Oh, Jane the Virgin, where she actually used tapping. It was a very popular show, and she actually used tapping. I didn't see it, so I'm not sure exactly to what extent, but it's getting out there, and I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, me too. Because again, it's such a great resource for the healing journey. Yeah.
It is.
Just taking a moment to thank a sponsor to the Healing Place podcast, fiscally sponsored project through Fractured Atlas, and for their generous donation this week at the Trauma Warrior level, the Phoenix Fund via Blue Mountain Community Foundation. Thank you. Now back to the show. So any other subjects that you wanted to touch upon today?
If we have a moment, there are things that there's one breathing technique that I love. It's called heart breathing. It's from Heart Math Institute. Have you heard of that?
Oh my gosh, you're like sucking things out of my head from yesterday, because somebody brought up heart math yesterday, and we've talked about the heart breathing. And please talk about it, because I would love for someone to talk more about it. I think it was during one of the Facebook Lives, which are very brief, so we just skimmed over it. Yeah,
it's pretty cool, and it's a way to bring coherence between your heart and your brain, so you get those waves instead of them being everywhere. They match.
That rhythmic.
And that's and that's when you're safe and your immune system is good. So what I've done is taken heart breathing, which is simply imagining that when you take a breath in, you're breathing directly into your heart center. And that's pretty simple to do because the lungs are right there. And if it seems odd to try to do that, to breathe into your heart, you can even put your hands there to focus your attention, to breathe into your heart and exhale from your heart. And they have you take about 6 to 8 breaths that way. What I've done is added a little happiness booster to this by, as you have your heart breathing going on, remember someone or some event or some place that when you think of it, you smile, boom, just like that. For me, it's my granddaughter. When I think of my granddaughter and holding her when she was young, I do my heart breathing. I breathe that happiness right into my heart and exhale that happiness out all around me. Inhale it into my heart and breathe it out. It's like the icing on the cake of heart breathing. And so that's something anybody can do anytime. If you're going between rooms down the hall, or you're going between meetings, or between patients, or while you're waiting for something, while you're sitting in the car, while you're in line at the grocery, properly distanced from the person in front of you.
Yes, right. 6 feet.
Do your heart breathing. Remember that happiness moment and breathe it in. Practice that daily. Holy cow. What it does is it allows you to then conjure up happiness. You rewire your brain so that you don't have to go searching for it. It's automatic. Does that make sense?
Yes,
The
absolutely.
more often you remember that happy moment, the easier it will come to you. I got myself through a intense immigration process one time, customs and immigration, coming back into the country. And I used my heart breathing and everything was just fine. That happiness came right back to me. I didn't get spun up. I was literally singing some silly song to myself that had come to mind about, this is not a big deal. I'm good,
Yeah.
So heart breathing, I'd like to leave that as well. The stealth techniques, the stealth finger techniques, and the heart breathing. Yeah.
Yes, beautiful. Well, you just taught me 2 beautiful new techniques
Cool.
to add to my toolbox.
Excellent.
Yay.
Very good.
Yeah, I love it. And again, I love the idea of learning all of these amazing modalities I had a guest the other day that said, I always called it alternative healing techniques outside of therapy. And she said, and I said, it seems like they're becoming more and more popular. And she said, yes, I've stopped using alternative and using complementary.
Yes.
And I thought, ooh, that's a perfect word.
Yes, exactly.
Because they are.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, they are.
Awesome.
Very cool.
All right. Well, we are still doing pretty good on time. If you have anything else you'd like to address.
I think the typical things, gratitude is a big one. It can turn your day around in a heartbeat if you just, depending on where you are, if you're driving in the car and you're reliving those bad moments that have happened and the things you have to do and blah, 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 look outside and find the sky, find a tree, find somebody who's being kind to you, or you could be kind to somebody else in traffic. It's do the right thing, and that makes you smile. I saw a woman one time in a car coming at me with a big smile on her face, and she was alone, and I'm thinking, holy cow, that's great. So I try to do that often, inspire a smile in others. Find a reason to be thankful. Do your heart breathing. If you have time, be still for meditation and just listen. You don't have to, sit in a certain position or have certain clothes on or listen to chanting or anything like that. Just be still. Just be still and listen. Take a breath. And when you take that breath, know that you're breathing. Feel the air come into your nostrils or your mouth. Feel it as it leaves. Notice the temperature of it. Notice how far it goes into your body. I saw a T-shirt recently that says something like, "It's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine."
Yes.
Just
I
like,
put that out on my Facebook page. Yeah, but it had a cat that had this face that like its eyes were this
oh, really?
big. Yeah,
That's great. That's
fine.
great.
I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Right. Which, it's not. So just
Right.
let go of that. Let go of that. It's okay. Just be still. Ask yourself what's going on. Take a breath. Find a reason to be thankful. Yeah. And you can hear that being said through clenched teeth. Exactly. It's fine.
Right. It's right. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
So that's pretty much it. I think
awesome.
those are some of the many tools in my toolbox. I'm glad you mentioned the EMDR. You've probably come across this that in one of the Gary Craig called it an advanced technique. It was called the 9 Gamut procedure, but part of it involves an aspect of EMDR where you're literally moving your eyes around while your head's still moving your eyes around a clock in both directions, seeing all the numbers on the clock. That's an aspect of EMDR. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I say EMDR. It took me 4 years and 98 sessions, but it was life altering for me. But I had just a horrific first 22 years of life and a lot of trauma that I always say was this big Christmas light tangled ball of lights. And I was like, I don't even know where to begin to untangle it, but we did, and it's wonderful. And then utilizing these complementary healing techniques is just
welcome to
even
the other
during this
side.
Pandemic. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying to you, welcome to the other side of that. That's great.
Yeah, I tell people to be in that darkness and then to come out into the light, and even during this pandemic to be able to stay in a state of calm, no panic, no anxiety, and just because I utilize all these tools and I've created these habits of breathing and meditation. Right?
And you're being of service by bringing these tools to others, which is also a way of helping you. So,
right. Yeah, I feel a purpose.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you said your tangled masts, they were still lights, Terry.
Oh my gosh, Teri, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And so now you've got light all around you. It's not tangled, but it's still light.
Oh my gosh, you just brought tears to my eyes on that. Holy moly, that's one of those aha moments.
The light's been in you the whole time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You just blew me away a little bit there. Very cool. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh.
You're welcome.
Well, this has been just a beautiful, enlightening, powerful conversation because
awesome talking with you. Yeah.
Taught me new tools and I love it. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome, dear.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for joining. Oh, did we say how people get a hold of you, where they can contact you?
You can visit my website, fromstressedtocalm.com. That's pretty easy to remember. And I am Teri at fromstressedtocalm.com. I'm on Facebook, a little bit of Twitter, not so much there, but yeah, I'm a grandma, this, I'm not a big thing on social media, but yeah.
Yeah, I do Facebook and I tried the whole Twitter thing. I just don't get it. My son, I have 3 kids, my middle child, he just is like, Mom, you don't hashtag that much on Twitter. I'm like, I don't get it, buddy. I mean, I'm trying to Instagram and I was like, all right, I don't get the Twitter thing.
Exactly. Yeah, me either. But the website is there. It's undergoing a revision right now. It's still nice, but it's going to be even nicer. But right on the homepage, there's a free ebook that is 10 simple habits to help you break up with stress. And a lot of the things we just talked about are listed on there with some links to more information on them, etc. So go grab that.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, again, I thank you so very much for
being
Teri. Here.
Thank you.
All right. Everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. Remember, you can tune in on YouTube as well as iTunes, Spotify, Pandora. I just found out the podcast has now been downloaded in 60 countries, which is amazingly cool. And also, don't forget to go over to the Facebook page to the Pandemic Self-Care series, and you can find that under the videos tab. I think we're at 32 interviews with a few more to go. I'll probably have about 35 in there total, and over 63,000 views as of this morning, which is really cool. So, all right, until next time, remember, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening today to the Healing Place podcast with your host and trauma warrior, Terry Wellbrock. If you enjoyed this episode and want to learn more about Teri, her mission, and the Hope for Healing journey, visit Teri's website at www.terrywellbrock.com. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and offering your reviews on our YouTube channel, audio outlets, and Facebook page. And as Teri reminds us, until next time, remember, be gentle with yourself.